Hi, it's Jan Peter, and I've been enjoying the Amiga 600 that I repaired, retrobrighted, recapped in previous videos quite a lot. But there is one minor quirk that I have to address in this video. And here's the little problem I want to address in this video. The SD to IDE adapter that I put into this machine in one of the last videos actually works very well, and it's really fast and I have no complaints whatsoever. However, the hard disk drive LED, which is labeled disk on these machines, is permanently lit, which is kind of a cosmetic problem, but still I consider it quite a bummer because this machine turned out so nicely after retrobrighting and refurbishing it. And yeah, that's the plan for today. I want to figure out why this is and what to do about it. And I actually already did some research about this, and I think I have halfway figured out why the problem exists at all in the first place, and several ways to address the problem, which I am going to talk about. So the workbench installation I did last time works well, no problems whatsoever. Installed some tools on here and things like that, and messed around with the Amiga a bit, had a bit of fun with it. But the hard drive LED is a bit of a bummer. So yeah, let me open this machine up and have a look actually. Before we dig deeper into this, let me just take a couple of seconds to thank my sponsor for this video, Skillshare. If you're anything like me, which you probably might be if you're watching these videos, you're always eager to explore new things, to learn about ways to channel your creativity in different fields, and probably you're interested in a variety of things. Skillshare is an excellent platform for learning new stuff and getting deeper into things that you know a bit about but always wanted to find out more about. They offer curated content, video content about just about anything that's related to creative work, be it video editing, be it music, be it electronics tinkering. They have everything covered. The content is focused on a smooth learning experience, so you don't have any interference by ads or anything like that. The classes are usually very compact, and if you're interested, there's always ways to dig deeper into the topic. If that sounds interesting to you, there is a link in the video description that gives you 2 months of a free trial on the Skillshare platform, and I highly recommend checking it out. There's a lot of interesting stuff on there. Check it out. Back to the Amiga. And yes, this is a hardware problem, kind of, as we're going to see shortly. So here's my IDE to SD adapter, which I covered in electrical tape, which gets quite warm actually if you run it for a while, so that's probably not the best idea. Yeah, as you can see, this uses a rather modern chipset. Can't really read which chipset it is, but they are all pretty similar. And the problem actually seems to be that this chipset runs on 3.3 volts logic opposed to the Amiga 600's 5 volts logic, TTL standard logic. So that's the problem. Let me explain. So here we are in the A600 schematics actually, and this is a circuit diagram of the LED assembly basically. And as you can see, we have our inputs here that come from various points on the main board, and we have our power LED and our disk drive LED, and they are buffered by these little transistors here, which doesn't seem like any problem at all because that's how these things work. But I don't know if it translates well on camera, but there are little underscores here in front of the little indicators. And that means that the signals are actually active low. That means if the logic is in a low state, so a low voltage means a low state, these are switched on actually. And that is the reason for our problem, because I think from what I've read up on, and yeah, I went through some forums and such and read up on the problem, and there's not much information to find about this issue, but it seems to be the case that the little SD to IDE adapter only provides 3.3 volts as this IDE LED signal. So given that the Amiga 600 has 5 volts logic, the 3.3 or thereabouts volts that are supposed to trigger the LED, which probably works on more modern systems, is too low for the Amiga to be recognized as a high signal, which actually would turn the LED off. That's our whole problem here, I think. I think that might be the explanation. So we have this thing outputting on the IDE LED pin, which is pin 39 on this little connector here, a signal that changes between 0 volts or ground level and 3.3 volts or thereabouts to actually turn the LED on and off. And that's actually mostly considered low by the Amiga or by the little circuit that triggers the LED. So that LED is going to be lit permanently. As this is something that I just read about on forums and such, and I don't know how reliable the sources are. I think there's a lot of very smart people in the forums, but I want to kind of see for myself what this output signal actually looks like. And for that purpose, I'm just gonna bring on the scope. Okay, so pin 39 should be the third pin on the row facing here from the top. And in order to be able to measure that without shorting it out against another pin, I'm just going to solder a wire on it, I guess, because that's going to be the easiest way to access it. Okay. So now I can just hook up my scope probe to this wire and hopefully should be getting some sort of reading. It's not going to be very accurate because I don't have a very good scope. Ideally you would need like a digital storage oscilloscope for this. I only have an analog scope, but hopefully we're going to see something still. So I did hook up my Amiga, I hooked up the scope, and I'm going to connect the probe to the little wire and the other side of the probe to ground, and then I'm going to have a picture-in-picture thing for the oscilloscope going, hopefully. So I'm just hooking up the ground to the shielding, which should be grounded, I hope so. And yeah, let's see what the scope actually says. So, okay, let me turn this on. And as you can see, we have, yeah, this is 2 volts per division. And this actually goes from, yeah, you can actually see that quite nicely there. I turned the Amiga off again. Let's turn it on again. And briefly we have 5 volts there. And it drops to 0 occasionally, it seems. Yeah, there we go. There you could see the drops. Storage oscilloscope would be really nice. This has some rudimentary storage facilities, but I'm not going to bother with that. Okay, so what this basically does is it goes lower when it's supposed to flicker, and then it just stays on 3.3 volts. Okay. And the 3.3 volts, as I said, are not enough. So it goes from 0 to 3.3, and it should go from 0 to around 5, which should be above this line here. to actually work. So yeah, as you can see, the onboard LED works, but the internal Amiga LED, if I had it connected, which I don't at the moment because the cable is so short, is permanently lit because of this issue. So one of the solutions is to just hack in another resistor. There's a little R5, which is the resistor for the active LED, which is on the same line as pin 39, the active line that triggers the LED. And you can add a 18 to 33K resistor. I read like these figures in forums. People had success with these resistances, and you basically add the resistor between pin 39 and the side of the little resistor facing away from the LED. So you add more resistance, and that should work around the issue. I'm not quite sure why, because I thought if you add the resistor there, it would actually lower the voltage even more. But people have reported that this actually fixes the problem. So that's the easiest and cheapest way to do it. You can of course add the resistor into the cable, which is a bit easier to solder, I guess, but it's not so easy to take these cables apart. That's the reason why I'm not trying this actually is soldering onto this little resistor is a bit tedious, and getting this apart is tedious as well, and I have another solution. So another solution I found at megabirkin.net, whatever that means, is this, where you actually add a little N-channel MOSFET between pin 39 and the activity LED. And that should actually bring up the switching voltage a bit, and the ground level stays the same basically. So that's a more proper fix for this. If you want to do that, you have to cut a trace on the little adapter and solder in a 2N7000 is suggested here, but I suppose other MOSFETs, transistors work as well. And this should be a more proper fix, albeit a more complicated one. I also found another version using a transistor that also uses resistors. I'm going to link all the solutions I found basically that seemed plausible to me in the description, so you can see for yourself which one suits your needs best. The solution I'm actually going to go for is this box. Yeah, it's in this box, okay. Okay, and here it is. This thing is called KA47 and is made by Rastport.com and is sold by various resellers of Amiga hardware. Yeah, you're going to find it if you just search for KA47, which is a single port SD to IDE connector adapter thingy. It looks like this. It's just a little circuit board. Rastport.com in Poland actually makes these. And it's just a little angled adapter. I think this side goes into the circuit board and the other side goes over here with the SD to IDE adapter plugged in. And this has a little magical IC on there that I'm going to explain in a second. So this actually plugs in like so, with the SD card facing upwards, and then you plug it in like this. And this actually, it might look a bit flimsy, but it actually holds pretty well because these connectors are pretty sturdy once plugged in. Yeah, this is going to hold it firmly. And the big advantage of this thing is that you actually have enough clearance to put like a Fourier accelerator card or things like that into this. This doesn't work, however, if you have the top shielding installed in the Amiga 600, which in my case, it seems like it has never been installed in this particular Amiga 600. So yeah, no big deal if you get rid of the top cover, basically. So I think I want to see if this actually works at first, and then talk about why. And why this is the solution that I like best, because it's electrically, I think it's the most proper solution there is to do it like that. Okay, let's see. Hey, and look at that. Now it works exactly as it's supposed to work. So it flickers while there is activity and stays off. And it's completely off. That's, I think, with the resistor solution, you get a slight flicker at times while it's supposed to be off, or it's slightly lit while it's supposed to be off sometimes. With this solution, we have it at the perfect brightness, and we have it perfectly turning off while not in use. And best of all, the workbench still works. Okay, so what is this magic IC on there, and how exactly does it work? For that purpose, I have opened the Rastport product page for the KA47, which is what we have here. It also tells me that it is usable in the A600 and the A1200, which have basically the same IDE port and the same LED circuitry. So this works. Has an active correction of HDD LED signal for Amiga. Yes, we know that already. And here's the schematics that's actually used in the little adapter. And it utilizes a 74HCT14, which is 6 independent Schmidt triggers, inverting Schmidt triggers, hex inverters with Schmidt trigger inputs. So what exactly is a Schmidt trigger, you might ask? And yeah, let me explain a bit. As I said, I'm not an expert and I'm giving a very basic explanation of this, but it becomes very apparent why this is a good idea after I explain this, I promise. So Schmidt trigger basically triggers, as the name suggests, a signal to high or low level, which is depending on the actual Schmidt trigger circuitry that can be specified depending on a threshold, or in some circuits even 2 thresholds. So you have a threshold and you have an input signal. In this case, it's going to be a square wave rather. Our square wave is at 3.3 volts and 0 volts, which is ground level. And what the Schmidt trigger does is it actually triggers as soon as this crosses the threshold. So you get an output signal. That's actually not very correct. Okay, we get an output signal like this, and then it stays active until the threshold is passed again, and it goes to 0 level, and then after it crosses the threshold again, it goes to the specified high level, and then it goes to the specified low level again, and then, yeah, I think you get the idea. And in our case, this is a TTL level Schmidt trigger that triggers at a very low input voltage, very low above 0 basically, and converts that to a 5 volt TTL level signal, or 4.5 volt, depending on the input voltage that you supply to the chip in this case. And that does exactly what we want. So yeah, a signal like this would just basically be amplified. So this is the signal we have, and we want this signal with 0 volts and around 5 volts. And that's exactly what we get from a Schmidt trigger. This is an inverting Schmidt trigger. That means actually if the signal, the input signal, looks like this, the output signal is going to look like this. So it literally inverts the signal. So just turns it around basically. So if this is high, this is low. If this is low, this is high. And yeah, they are basically using two Schmidt trigger inputs in serial to turn the wave around again. So back to the Rastport schematics, and yeah, as you can see, these inputs are all tied to 5 volts. These are the U1C, U1D. U1 is the chip, and the inputs are just alphabetically. They have like alphabetic designators. So the first input actually is used for the IDE LED signal that comes in here, and it gets the Schmidt trigger does its magic, which is an inverting Schmidt trigger, so high becomes low and low becomes high. And then they send it back to the second Schmidt trigger input actually, and out comes our signal that actually goes to the LED circuitry in the Amiga. And that actually does exactly what we want. It amplifies the highs of the signal, and the low level stays at ground level. So that's a signal the Amiga can actually work with. This is exactly the kind of signal the circuitry is made for. So that's why this works basically. And the other pins are just connected one-to-one, except for pin 20, which is not connected on both sides. That's all the magic that happens here basically. And of course we have a 5 volt supply and a ground. And to verify my kind of theory, because as I said, I'm not an expert, I'm just going to solder my wire back on here. Yeah, of course I should connect it after the Schmidt trigger. I connected it before, so we get the exact same result as we had before. So let me quickly resolder the wire to another point. Sorry. Wouldn't be me if I got it right first try. It should be this pin here, I think. Okay, so now what we're supposed to see is around 5 volts TTL. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that looks more like it. And it, as you can see, it just changes between 0 ground level and 5 volts. And that is how this thing works actually. And it works beautifully. Let's do this one more time, just so you can see it. Okay, there we go. High, TTL level high, really proper TTL level, and 0 level when the LED actually goes on. The high level is turning the LED off, just in case you don't remember. Yeah, I think that's basically it for today. That's all I wanted to show you. Hope this was interesting. And maybe this helps you make your Amiga even better. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope this was informative and maybe a bit entertaining even. If you want to give me some support, check out my Patreon page and my YouTube channel memberships that I recently activated as well. And also just hit the subscribe button and hit the bell and give me your thumbs up or thumbs down, whatever you feel like. And yeah, stay tuned for more, much more to come on this channel. Hope to see you again sometime. Thanks for watching. I'm Jan Beta. See you next time. Bye.